The anime begins with a girl in her classroom. Due to her average marks, she is considered a loser, and she can hear others gossiping about her. She feels the stares of others and anxiously prays to God for help. A person tosses a coin, saying her prayers have been answered. Our divine protagonist, Yad, has arrived with his regalia, a god's weapon in spirit form, Tomon. They spot a monster called a phantom outside the classroom, formed from the stress of students as exams approach. Yad and Tomon begin their fight with the phantom and successfully defeat it. After the battle, Tomon expresses her desire to leave her position as his regalia, since he is poor and doesn't have his own shrine. I didn't know a could be so similar to me, she says. Yad sadly releases her from being his regalia, and she walks away happily. Now without a shrine where he can stay, Yad wanders aimlessly through the streets. He receives a call about a missing cat named My Lord. While searching for it in a market, he passes by a girl named Hiyori. As he walks past her, he spots My Lord sitting in the middle of the road. As Yad runs to rescue the cat, Hiyori suddenly pushes him from behind to prevent him from being hit by a truck. They are both thrown across the road. When she takes in her surroundings, Hiyori finds her body on the road after an accident, while her soul is outside her body. This drives her frantic. Truck Kundun struck again. The next moment, she opens her eyes in the hospital, back in her body but with no memory of the night's events. Yad makes an unusual visit, and they introduce themselves to each other. In the morning, she feels weak and dizzy. While returning home from school, she searches for the cat, My Lord. When Yad retrieves My Lord, some phantoms appear. Yad runs from them, but they give chase, attracted by the cat's scent. Without a regalia, Yad struggles to fight the phantoms. Just as a huge phantom is about to attack him, Hiyori appears and pulls him away. They both flee the scene and reach a safe place where phantoms cannot find them. Once again, Hiyori finds herself looking at her body from a distance, her soul now having a tail. She reveals she came to find Yad because she has many questions for him. He explains that she exists between the far shore and near shore, where the near shore is the world of the living, and the far shore is the afterlife. She is half phantom, like others who possess people, but she is different. After hearing this, she desperately wants to know how to solve her predicament. He agrees to help her, but only for a price. Being a he asks her for a 5-yen coin. She happens to have one and gives it to him. He assures her that her wish will be granted. The next morning at school, Hiyori keeps falling asleep in class and feels constantly drowsy. Beyond the drowsiness, she can now see small creatures, phantoms, around her surroundings. One day, her soul unknowingly leaves her body. She exits her school and finds herself feeling like a bird, roaming around the city and observing random phantoms. While hopping on power line wires, she notices a dark aura emanating from somewhere and suddenly remembers that Yad hasn't contacted her yet. She must have seen something in one of those phantoms. After returning to her body, she calls Yad to come meet her. When he arrives, he reveals to her that he is the god of war, born from wishes. He warns her that as a living phantom, other phantoms would try to possess her, causing her to cross the line between worlds. After hearing this, she asks him to fix her situation. He acknowledges his responsibility due to their contract and expresses his wish to create a shrine with the money. He explains that without a regalia, helping her will be difficult. He then receives a call for a job and leaves. Nervous about her condition, she decides to find a regalia for him. She searches everywhere, and after noticing a dark aura with spirits accumulating nearby, she plans to investigate it. Meanwhile, Yad is working on repairing a bathroom. After completing the repair and receiving his coin, he goes to an empty shrine belonging to another. He receives a call from Hiyori saying she has found a regalia for him. When he arrives, they encounter a huge phantom, one born from emotions. Yad and Hiyori start running from it as it pursues them. Hiyori, noting that she's more agile in her phantom form, hops across houses and attempts to kick the phantom. Yad pulls her back by her tail, but a phantom engulfs his arm. He manages to pull it free, and they escape to a peaceful place. There, she notices Yad's arm, and he explains that he has defilement in his hand. He warns her to stay away to prevent it from spreading to her. She learns from him that her tail is the connection between her physical and phantom forms. If it's destroyed, she will die. The phantom catches up to them again, and they resume running. Yad finds a pretty young spirit, and having no choice, decides to make it his regalia. He performs the chanting ritual and transforms it into a great sword. Using this new weapon, he defeats the phantom, which vanishes into the sky. After the battle, he goes to a shrine and uses water to clean the blight from his hand. Hiyori arrives there, and Yad names his sword Yuki. Upon receiving the name, the sword transforms into a boy who shivers in the cold. Yad offers Yuki his jacket, but Yuki refuses, saying it smells of sweat. Hiyori then gives Yuki her scarf. Being poor and penniless, Yad provides Yuki with clothes from trash bins and finds leftover fish for their hunger. Yuki struggles to comprehend his situation, wondering if he hadn't known that a would scavenge the streets for food and sleep in others' shrines. All of a sudden, a is starting to sound more like me, he thinks. Yad makes Hiyori treat them to food since Yuki is a new colleague and hungry, and she needs Yad to fix her problem. She learns from Yad that gods and their regalia aren't invisible but can be seen when noticed, though people easily forget them afterward. After their meal at the restaurant, they head outside where Yad explains to Hiyori Yad and their regalia share the same body and mind. Yad receives a call and leaves with Yuki. Upon arriving at the location, they discover Hiyori has followed them. They find themselves in a place surrounded by mist, and Yad suspects someone has given him a fake call to lure him there. Someone Someone appears who can make cherry trees bloom and recites popular poem lines. Hiyori recognizes him as Tenon, learning. Impressed by his divine elegance, Hiyori and Yuki bow before him, which hurts Yad's feelings since they don't show him the same respect as a god. Tenon has summoned Yad because, with exams approaching, he has many student wishes to fulfill and wants Yad to handle the phantoms. This is actually Tenon's shrine that Yad has been using for days. Though Yad resists at first, Tenon persuades him by offering a yen coin. To guide them, Tenon calls his regalia Mayu, who turns out to be Tomon, Yad's former regalia. During the job briefing, Mayu tells them about a phantom that has been possessing people, resulting in one student's suicide. Yad appears indifferent, stating that if someone who is possessed wants to commit suicide, they should be left alone, as possessed people and dead people are the same to him. Hiyori tries to make him understand that he should kill phantoms and save lives, but Yad shows no concern and runs away. As he's about to leave without completing his job, Mayu reminds him that Tenon has paid in advance. Yad reluctantly agrees to work and prepares Yuki for his first job. Meanwhile, on the other side, Hiyori is angry with Yad. She spots a phantom clinging to a man's shoulder and attempts to kick it but misses. Multiple phantoms appear, and unable to fight back, Hiyori is captured and trapped on a railway track. Yad comes to her rescue, and they board a train where Yad and Yuki have a job to eliminate a phantom that drives students to suicide. A phantom is compelling a student, and they arrive in time to stop it. The back hero learns what Yato meant earlier. He didn't want the regalas to witness others taking their lives, as the regalas used to be people who died at night. Yat gives Yuki a jacket to keep warm, which Yuki accepts and uses to sleep. Someone is observing them in a shrine while they rest. Yat is lost in his fantasies and dreams about being an incredible the fan following. Yuki wakes him up due to Yat's disruptive sleep talking. In the morning, Hiyori brings a meal for both of them and expects Yat to fulfill her wish. Yat shows them a random pot and other items he bought, which is a scam to make money. Hiyori and Yuki together break the pot, and Hiyori makes Yat understand that he should consider Yuki's feelings and behave more like a god. Yat becomes serious after listening and asks Hiyori if she wants to meet someone. He brings Hiyori and Yuki to a place where Kauku, one of 7 fortunes, resides with her regalia Deku. During introductions, Yat warns Hiyori and Yuki that Deku is inappropriate with children. Deku knocks Yat out to prevent misunderstandings. Kauku asks Hiyori about her relationship with Yat, but she becomes embarrassed and cannot answer. Kauku reveals a rumor that despite his appearance, Yat can be a terrifying god. Yat soon appears, claiming he has a job, and takes Yuki and Hiyori with him. Their job is to save a man named Yuke, who is about to commit suicide by jumping from a building's top. Yat arrives with Hiyori and Yuki, but unexpectedly causes Yuke to fall from the building. The trio falls with Yuke, attempting to save him. During the fall, Yat introduces himself to Yuke and asks why he chose to commit suicide. Hiyori is confused by Yat's questioning while falling and not immediately saving Yuke. Surprisingly, Yuke explains his situation to Yato. He worked at an ad agency that went bankrupt, leaving him with no options. He was trying to apologize to his parents before his fall. Yat asks him to explain the entire story from the beginning. Yuke shares that on his way home, he met a girl of Hiyori's age who was confined to her home. That night, she sneaked out. Yuke saw her like a bird in a cage and invited her to leave with him. They began dating, buying her new clothes, and visiting various places. However, strange incidents started occurring wherever they went. His job performance declined, and he went bankrupt. Yat seems to recognize the girl and asks to see her picture. It turns out to be Kauku, whom Yat introduces as the god of poverty who brings disaster. The fall appears unusually long, reminiscent of a fantasy scenario. Yat and Yuki cut Yuke's ties with Koff and make him forget her. Yuke lands safely on the ground without injury at Kauku's place. Kauku mentions enjoying the encounter, while Deku prevents her from going outside due to her fate. As Yat and Yuki leave, Hiyori asks Kauku about Yat being the god of war. Kauku tells Hiyori that Yat killed his regalia and many people. Yuke adds that this happened long ago during a time when people frequently killed each other while returning home. Yat meets Hiyori and tells her that if something happens to him, she should go meet Kuko and Yuke near a lake. Yuki is sitting when a girl arrives, commenting on his good eyes. Yat approaches her and asks what Nora wants. She tells Yat to call her by the name he gave her, saying she will always be waiting for him. Then she disappears. Hiyori wonders if Nora is also Yat's regalia. Yat and the others are outside, where he picks up a small phantom. He explains that a regalia has the power to draw a borderline between themselves and phantoms, preventing phantoms from crossing. He asks Yuki to draw this borderline. Yuki creates a strong borderline, impressing Yat, who appreciates Yuki's ability. Hiyori asks about Nora, and Yat describes her as a friend of benefits. Hiyori decides to take Yuki with her, believing Yat is not a suitable guardian. Yat resists, concerned about the implications of a boy and girl sharing a body and mind, experiencing a tingling pain due to their connection. Both Hiyori and Yat insist Yuki go with them, but Yuki chooses Hiyori, feeling more comfortable with her. They arrive at Hiyori's place when her parents are not home. She takes Yuki to her brother's empty room. When going downstairs, she sees her parents have arrived, with Yat standing behind them. While her parents cannot see Yat, Hiyori can see him outside. Yat is sitting in a tree, and Hiyori asks why he's there, claiming it's ruining her plan to look after Yuki. Yat reveals he knows about Yuki's past past and explains that Yuki is afraid of darkness. He mentions that shrines are sacred places for gods and regalias, protecting them from phantoms. The night is a time of delivery and phantom attacks, and he's concerned Yuki might not be able to handle this darkness. Back at home, when Hiyori is in her room, Yuki mentions that his father turned off the light in his room. Hiyori invites Yuki to sleep with her, considering him a child but acknowledging he's at a vulnerable age and afraid of darkness. Yuki agrees to sleep in Hiyori's bed. While Hiyori sleeps soundly, Yuki finds it difficult to sleep due to her close proximity. Yacht arrives and tells Yuki not to sleep with Hiyori. Yuki becomes flustered, pointing out that Yacht also has a girl as a regalia and doesn't need Yuki for his tasks. Frustrated, Yuki returns to his own room. The next morning, Hiyori takes Yuki to a shop. Yuki takes a skateboard without paying for it. Hiyori scolds him, calling it stealing, and makes him put the skateboard back. When she turns her head, Yuki has disappeared. She searches everywhere but cannot find him. Yacht is also at the mall. By the end of the day, he tells Hiyori about regalias and how different feelings can arise from temptation. He explains that can feel the pain of a regalia's sin and can punish them for acting on temptation. During this conversation, Hiyori loses consciousness. As night approaches, Yuki feels frightened and eager to go home. Yuki notices a small girl who hugs him from behind and asks him to wait with her for her mother. He tells her that her mother won't be coming, which makes her start crying and run away into the darkness. Multiple phantoms begin to appear, threatening to corrupt the girl's soul. Yuki draws a borderline to prevent phantoms from approaching the girl, but a powerful phantom is coming that Yuki cannot fight. Hiyori pulls Yuki back as the phantom captures the girl. Yacht arrives and asks Yuki to kill the phantom. Yuki is reluctant to kill the phantom possessing the girl, but Yato convinces him that it's better to save her from suffering. They successfully kill the phantom. Someone is seen informing a girl about Yacht killing the phantom and acquiring a new regalia. Yuki has become afraid of phantoms, even small ones. At the mall, he blames Yacht and Hiyori for his situation and steals a skateboard from a shop. Hiyori goes out searching for Yuki, who is upset, and Yacht has not come to meet him. While skating, Yacht finds Yuki and asks about the skateboard. Yuki lies, saying Hiyori bought it for him. As they talk, Hiyori arrives, feeling relieved to see Yuki with Yacht. Yacht asks Hiyori if she bought the skateboard for Yuki. Seeing Yacht's angry face, Hiyori lies and says she bought it for Yuki, which surprises Yuki. As the sun sets, Yacht explains the twilight as the boundary between day and night, a time when creatures from other worlds become wild and attack as monsters. Listening to this, Yuki feels anxious and fearful of the darkness. At this moment, a girl named Bishan appears, riding on a lion of war. Bishan attacks Yuki using her whip, but Yacht pushes him aside. Yacht explains that he is on the wrong side of Bishan due to some past conflict, and now she seeks revenge. Bishan declares her motive is to bring justice against evil. Yacht forces Yuki to become his regalia, and they run away, leaving Hiyori behind. Bishan begins chasing Yacht, with her regalia Kazuma navigating her location. Yacht hides behind a building and tells Yuki to stop being childish, explaining that Yuki's emotions affect him and he is tired. Yacht emerges to fight Bishan, but Yuki refuses to fight for him. During the battle, Bishan declares she won't let Yacht kill any more regalas. Yuki feels dejected, and the sword can no longer deflect bullets as it did before. To save himself from Bishan's attack, Yacht starts running away again. Hiyori arrives at Fuko's workplace, where she learns that Bishan is chasing Yacht. She discovers that Yacht is Calamity, who killed Bishan's regalia in the past. Despite this information, Hiyori begs Kuko and Deku to help Yacht, and they agree. Yacht hides in the forest, and Yuki asks if he truly killed Bishan's regalia. Yacht confirms this but refuses to explain his reasons, simply stating he wanted to kill her regalia. Bishan appears, searching for him, and they prepare to fight. Kuko arrives and uses Deku as her regalia to open a vent, driving out phantoms. Bishan's lion regalia bites Yacht, but Nora, hidden in the bushes, binds the lion with her spell. Kazuma urges Bishan to retreat. As she leaves, she vows to get revenge on Yacht. After the confrontation, everyone returns to their respective places. Yato attempts to clean the blight that has occurred on his back due to Yuki's rebellious actions, but he cannot remove it. Nora appears, offering herself to be used wherever Yacht wants. Bishan takes a bath in a hot spring, believing that Yacht has been weakened by blight and that she had a chance to kill him. She calls Kazuma for a status report on the vent. Kazuma informs her that the vent has been closed after 3 days with the help of several shrines, though some phantoms escaped and need to be eliminated. Bishan acknowledges her responsibility to exterminate these phantoms. After leaving the hot spring, she calls her IIA to begin a mission. Hiyori comes to Yuki's room to bring him breakfast but finds Yacht instead. She asks about Yuki's whereabouts, and Yacht tells her Yuki is at Tenon God's place. Hiyori rushes there and finds Yuki asking Tenon for permission to work, explaining that Yacht has no shrine and is broke. Yuki wants to help as a regalia. Tenon appreciates Yuki's offer but does not want him to become a Nora. Hiyori asks Tenon about the name Nora. Tenon explains that Nora is a title given to those who have multiple masters and are likely to betray their primary master. Because of this, Nora is considered detestable in the divine community. They are typically used to perform tasks that gods do not want to assign to their regular regalias. Hiyori leaves the place and stands on top of a building, searching for Yuki. Hiyori sees Bishan, and Kazuma suddenly appears behind her, restraining her with his power, so that Bishan cannot sense her presence. Kazuma reports to Bishan about the area being cleared of phantoms. After Bishan leaves, Kazuma releases Hiyori from his spell. Kazuma then inquires about Yacht's condition, explaining that Yacht is suffering from blight due to Yuki's rebellious actions. He warns that if this continues, Yacht will die. Kazuma asks Hiyori to help Yacht and deal with Yuki. Yuki is frustrated that Tenin did not hire him. Yacht arrives, claiming to have a job, and takes Yuki with him. They arrive at a general store to help the owner at night, but Yuki is not enthusiastic about the work. Hiyori arrives with Kuko and Deku. Deku suggests a job in notation since Yacht has no other work. Suddenly, Yacht feels pain in his back and sees Yuki at the counter. He runs to the counter, checks the money box, and suspects Yuki of stealing. Yuki denies the accusation and runs away, staggering and dropping a box of money. Everyone sees this, and Yuki runs away again. Yacht accepts the job from Deku and leaves. Hiyori follows him and helps Yacht understand that a regalia is not a tool but a being with emotions. Yacht senses Nora with Yuki and runs towards them. Nora is trying to convince Yuki that he is useless to Yacht. Yacht transforms Yuki into a sword to fight a nearby phantom. They struggle, with Nora attempting to compel Yacht to use her. However, Yacht tells her to stay away, stating that he has Yuki and has named him. He promises to reforge Yuki. They cut the phantom into pieces and leave together. Hiyori is in her school's bathroom, thinking about Kazuma's warning that Yacht might die due to Yuki's actions. She sees Yacht behind her with Yuki and misunderstands their intention, believing they are there to peek at her. She beats them. Yacht tries to explain he is there for job marketing and opens a bathroom stall where a male student has been hiding. She beats the student as well. The student, Manabu, explains he was hiding in the girls' bathroom to avoid being bullied during break time. Yuki does not seem to like Manabu, and Yacht tells Yuki he is similar to Manabu. Yuki rejects this comparison and leaves, slamming the door. Before leaving, Yacht gives something to Manabu. Yuki enters a classroom where students are friends and having fun. He finds them lucky and feels lonely. Manabu is also in the classroom, with some students making fun of him. A phantom forms, pushing Manabu to either kill those students or himself, planting such dark thoughts in his mind. Meanwhile, Kaku is watering her garden when Bishan appears with her regalia. They are seeking Augie, Kaku's prediction about locations where vents are most likely to open, allowing phantoms into the living world. Kaku draws multiple circles on maps to predict vent locations. With so many vents opened, it becomes difficult for Bishan to exterminate them all. Bishan asks Kaku if she knows Yacht, suspecting that Kaku might be deliberately opening vents to keep Bishan away from Yacht. Kaku threatens that it's none of her business now, but warns Bishan to be prepared for a big storm if something happens to Yacht. Bishan is surprised by Kaku's warning and leaves. Hiyori is at her school, wondering about Yacht's whereabouts. She searches for him and finds him in the infirmary, lying on a bed. She thinks he might be hurting due to blight, and tries to check by lifting his shirt and waking him up. She tells him she has been worrying about Yuki. Yacht senses a dark aura, and wonders if the source is Manabu or Yuki. Meanwhile, Manabu threatens one of his bullies with the blade Yacht gave him and approaches the bully. However, Manabu cannot bring himself to kill. Yacht and Hiyori arrive and relieve Manabu, who returns to class. Yuki loses control and wants to befriend someone else. Yacht wants him to understand where he belongs. Yuki starts breaking classroom glasses, and Yacht's blight spreads throughout his entire body. Hiyori carries Yacht on her back and becomes infected too. Yuki sees them suffering. Hiyori tells Yuki that Yacht has been enduring all this pain because of his actions. They go to Kuku's place. Seeing Hiyori and Yacht's blight, Deku draws a border preventing them from entering. Hiyori informs Kuku and Deku that Yacht is about to die. Deku allows only Hiyori to enter Kuku's home. Deku explains that Yuki must be punished for Yacht's blight through ablution, which can only be performed with 3 regalias. Besides Deku, they need 2 more regalias. Deku goes out to find them and first visits Tenin's shrine, where Mayu agrees to help him. Deku visits different shrines seeking help, but no one agrees to assist. Hiyori listens to Kuku's phone call with Deku, learning they still need 1 more regalia. She decides to find one herself, initially considering Nora, but ultimately choosing to ask Kazuma. Hiyori goes directly to Bishan's shrine and loudly calls Kazuma's name. Meanwhile, Deku returns home, telling Kuku he has acquired 1 regalia. Hiyori arrives, bringing Kazuma with her. Deku is surprised, given that the Kazuma group is typically against Yacht. Kazuma explains he has come to help Yacht due to a personal debt. He asks Yacht to revoke Yuki's name and expel him, but Yacht refuses. When Kazuma asks Yuki what he has done, Yuki remains indifferent, claiming he did nothing special. They make Yuki remove his shirt and discover phantoms harboring his body, revealing the extent of Yacht's suffering. 3 regalia surround Yuki, creating borderlines around him. This is the process of ablution, where a regalia is driven to confess his sins to other regalias. If the sinful regalia denies his wrongdoings, he begins transforming into a phantom. Yuki, who does not accept his actions, starts transforming. Gradually, he begins to acknowledge his thefts and destruction, but argues that living beings deserve it since they have everything. Yuki resists and suffers within the boundaries, causing Yacht to agonize as well. The phantom spreads across Yuki's body, consuming him. Yacht attempts to call Yuki Yuki's name but lacks the energy. Hiyori rushes toward the boundaries and calls Yuki's name. Hiyori forbids Yuki from transforming into a phantom and helps him understand that Yacht has been there for him. She explains that Yacht has endured all of Yuki's actions, just like his father. Yacht calls Yuki's name, saying he has given Yuki a name and wants him to live as a person. Yuki returns to his senses, confessing the crimes that led to this situation. The ablution ends in the morning, with each regalia exhausted from punishing Yuki. Yacht makes Yuki apologize to Hiyori, who has done everything to prevent his death. Hiyori embraces them while crying, which pleases everyone. Yuki works hard under Deku to repay the stolen money, and asks Hiyori for books she would normally throw away after finishing high school. This makes Yacht and Hiyori cry, feeling like Yuki's parents. Kauku arrives, telling Hiyori that she is in debt for helping them. The trio goes to Tenen's shrine to express their gratitude. While Yacht talks with Tenen, Mayu takes Hiyori and Upup aside. Hiyori asks Mayu about a missing regalia in the shrine. Mayu reveals that the missing regalia was corrupted after hearing about Yuki's condition. Tenon is strict about such matters and has punished the regalia through ablution. Hurting oneself or others is considered betraying the master, and revoking a regalia after ablution is an act of kindness, allowing another master to take them. Mayu notes that Yuki is fortunate. Yacht is still keeping him. She warns that darkness always exists beside them, and crossing borders can corrupt their souls. Inside the shrine, Yacht asks Tenon how to help Hiyori, as she has been staying in her phantom form lately. Hiyori has paid Yacht, but he hasn't considered it because he doesn't know how to solve her problem. Since she has greatly helped him, he wants to help her now. Tenen suggests Yacht cut ties with her, as he has been pulling her into their world. After school, Hiyori goes out with her friends and learns about Rabu, famous for making people disappear if someone wishes it. Yacht is at his job when Hiyori calls to invite him to Tenen's shrine for the first New Year visit. He agrees when she mentions food stamps. Hiyori gets ready in a pretty kimono and joins her friends at the shrine. She sees Yacht from behind and runs towards him in her phantom form, leaving her physical body behind for her friends. However, in reality, Yacht and Yuki haven't yet reached the shrine. On their way, a phantom attacks them. They fight back and eliminate it, but more phantoms appear. Yacht and Yuki start fighting multiple phantoms. Hiyori reaches a park, following Yacht but unable to find him. Nora appears and attacks Hiyori using puppet dogs that chase and try to bite her. Hiyori jumps onto a building where the sunrise's sunlight strikes the dogs, making them vanish. Nora informs Hiyori that Rabu has awakened and will eliminate Yacht, who has grown weak due to Hiyori. Yacht completes his job and goes to the shrine, but Hiyori doesn't recognize him, asking who they are. She has lost her memories of Yacht and everything else. This deeply bothers Yacht, who decides to help her remember. He takes Hiyori to where they first met while rescuing a cat. Despite many hints, she cannot remember who Yacht is and wants to leave, saying she came to give Yuki her books. This makes Yacht sad, and he decides to create a picture book to help her remember. Yacht and Yuki go out to buy art materials for the picture book, spending all the money Yacht has collected. They return, hoping to restore Hiyori's memories. Nora appears, and Yacht learns she is behind everything. She doesn't want Hiyori to get involved in far shore matters, and expects Yacht to return to his normal self. Nora is Rabu God's regalia, and was previously an acquaintance of Yacht. Rabu appears and transforms Nora into his sword, attacking Yacht. Yacht and Yuki fight back. Yacht shows his killing intent, knowing Rabu would kill him if they held him back. Rabu tries to make Yacht remember his past, when his power was not as it is now. A dark aura fills the atmosphere, alerting other gods. Rabu is powerful enough to injure Yuki, who transforms back into human form. Nora returns to human form and promises Yacht that if he can defeat Rabu, she will return Hiyori's memories. They then disappear. At Kuku's home, Kazuma visits Yuki. Yuki learns that Rabu is the god of calamity, born from people's evil desires and intent to kill. Rabu killed people to fulfill these desires, along with his partner Yacht, who was also a god of calamity. Hiyori knows about this history but decides to remain friends with Yacht, recognizing that he has changed. Yacht is at Tenen's shrine, where Tenen suggests it might be better for Hiyori not to remember him and avoid transforming into a half-phantom. On his return, Yacht meets Yuki, who has decided to help Hiyori remember Yacht. However, Yacht shows no concern. Yuki takes the picture book drawn by Yacht to Hiyori, letting her see how they became friends, but Hiyori still cannot remember. Nora meets Yacht again. Yacht sees the memory orb of Hiyori dripping. Nora wants Yacht to visit them with the dripping orb. Hiyori loses her memory about Yuki when she is about to take a coloring book from him but ultimately does not. Yuki cries by the lake, devastated that Hiyori has forgotten him. Yacht joins Yuki, and they decide to bring her memory back. They go to Hiyori's place, telling her they will help her recover her memories and asking her to rest. For some reason, she starts crying. As Yacht and Yuki are about to disappear, she clings to Yacht's shoulder. However, Yacht and Yuki vanish, and her body falls. Rabu and Nora are at the place that used to be Yacht's shrine. Yacht and Yuki arrive, and Hiyori in phantom form also appears. Yacht and Rabu begin fighting with their regalias. Rabu captures Yacht and his water orb. Yacht cannot cut himself free from the inside, but Hiyori saves them. Yacht thanks Hiyori with a grateful expression, which Rabu dislikes. Rabu wants Yacht to return to his of calamity form and cross swords with him. He attacks Hiyori, but Yacht rescues her, taking her to a distant place. Yacht wants Yuki to run away with Hiyori while he stays behind, knowing Rabu wants him. Rabu arrives, carrying Hiyori's memory orb, and throws it far away. Yacht follows it, but Rabu breaks the orb with his sword. Hiyori loses consciousness and becomes a memoryless vessel. Yacht takes her away and becomes enraged at Rabu, with a dark storm appearing in the environment. Bishan learns that this is due to the appearance of calamity. Yacht becomes overwhelmingly strong with a killing intent visible in his eyes, exactly what Rabu desired. Rabu cannot match Yacht's power and absorbs the dark storm, merging with phantoms to try and eliminate Yacht. Their fight results in massive rock crumbling. As some rocks are about to fall on Hiyori, Yacht rushes back to save her. He covers her, protecting her from the falling rocks. Hiyori is unconscious but can smell Yacht's scent and suddenly opens her eyes. She recognizes Yacht and her past with him. Nora is surprised that Hiyori has broken her spell independently. Rabu captures Hiyori and blames her for Yacht's condition. Yacht wants Yuki to kill the phantoms harboring Rabu. Yacht kills the phantoms, leaving Rabu weakened and alone. Yacht easily defeats Rabu, who seems to want to be killed this way. The atmosphere clears, and Nora realizes her plan has failed, deciding to inform her father about the events. Upon returning, Yacht suggests Hiyori should cut ties with them to have a normal life. She rejects this, saying she does not desire a normal life. At Kauku's place, Hiyori tells Yacht she wants to be with him forever. This makes her embarrassed, and she tries to explain that she doesn't mean it romantically. Yacht charges Hiyori a 5 yen coin for granting her wish, and she gives him the coin, creating a happy ending. Meanwhile, Bishan experiences a nightmare about her worst past day, when she was helpless and injured while Yacht cold-heartedly murdered many of her regalas. She wakes up with renewed remorse against him. Yacht is happily looking for odd jobs as a with Yuki sitting beside him, questioning Yacht's childish excitement. Hiyori excitedly prepares for her school day, feeling confident about her prep exams. However, when she starts explaining a concept to a friend, her soul slips out again. She decides to wander around town and ends up sensing a familiar smell. Yacht and Yuki are currently at a house, changing a baby's diaper and putting him to sleep. Hiyori enters, surprising them with how easily she found them. Yuki and Hiyori are amazed at how naturally Yacht handles the child. The baby's mother is exhausted and has fallen asleep. Hiyori observes Yuki's excitement that the baby can see him. Yacht begins explaining how to pick up and play with a baby. Suddenly, the room's environment changes, and a phantom in the form of a stuffed rabbit appears from the wall behind Hiyori. Hiyori counters the phantom, and Yacht takes Yuki as his sword while Hiyori handles the baby. Yuki feels nervous about being in a closed space with a baby, but Yacht gives him confidence, teaching him to create boundaries about who to hurt and who not to. Hiyori, standing near a mirror, helps Yacht realize the phantom was created by the baby's loneliness from playing with his reflection. The evil spirit resides inside the mirror. Yuki successfully eliminates the phantom in the mirror. Yacht wants to leave without cleaning up, but the other two rational people stop him. Meanwhile, Bishan asks Kazuma to continue searching for Yacht, as she still wants her revenge. Hiyori continues teaching Yuki. Yacht boasts about purchasing a magic gem at a high price, only to reveal it's an ordinary keychain that Mr. Adult was scammed into buying. Yacht and Yuki walk around, with Yacht screaming about his job like a street vendor. Suddenly, he notices Bishan and barely dodges her, telling Yuki to avoid any encounters with her at all costs. Bishan finds a human being attacked by a phantom. With the help of her regalias, she easily eliminates the phantom and transforms the girl, Mina, into her regalia. Despite Mina becoming a broken regalia due to her torn spirit, Bishan welcomes her into her large family of regalias. Kazuma worries about Bishan, understanding that her desire to save everyone also causes her suffering. A master experiences the effects of clouded minds and tainted feelings from former humans who become regalias. Bishan tells him not to worry and proceeds to her ritual bath. While bathing, Kugaha mentions a rumor about Kazuma attending Yacht's ablution ritual previously. Bishan remains confident in her trust in Kazuma. Yacht tries to manipulate Hiyori into bringing him some cheese buns. She reminds him to help her with the issue he promised to address soon, warning that she won't leave him alone if he doesn't follow through. Yuki hangs out with another regalia named Susua, whom he met outside. It takes some time before they discuss whose regalia they are. Yuki stops when he learns his new friend belongs to Bishan. To his misfortune, Kuga overhears that Yuki belongs to Yacht while he's collecting sap for some pills. Nora visits Kuga, and he tells her he met Yacht and finds him useful for his future plans. Yacht and Yuki have an intense meeting in the attic, but it turns out Yuki simply wanted to inform Yacht about making a new friend. Mayu later criticizes Yacht while praising Yuki for socializing and not being like Yacht. Yuki gets so excited about Susua that he spends less time with Yacht and keeps rushing around. Yacht is surprised that Susua has never heard of him, despite serving Bishan, but decides to let it slide. Yuki insults Yacht when Susua praises Bishan, pointing out that while Bishan has a huge family of regalias living in luxury, Yacht steals Yuki's money and insults him constantly. Susua is somewhat jealous of how close Yuki and Yacht seem, noting that his own master hasn't even called his name in a long time. Susua shows Yuki a cherry blossom tree he has been caring for. He had promised a girl named Tomoko, who used to visit her grandmother in the area, that he would tend to the tree. However, the girl always used to forget about him and stopped visiting. This makes Yuki sad, as he fears Hiyori will forget about them soon. He shares this fear with Yacht and cries, while Yacht calmly listens, clearly feeling sad but hiding his emotions. At night, Susua is observing the tree when Kugaha visits him. Kugaha coldly mentions that Tomoko will never return and that Susua will never be remembered or called by Bishan again. Kugaha leaves Susua broken, telling him his life has no purpose. purpose. Susua gets hunted down by phantom dogs. Bishan wakes up with immense chest pain, realizing one of her regalas has died. The next day, Yuki and Hiyori visit the shrine and wait for Susua, unaware of his painful death. Yacht stalks them around, earning a beating from Hiyori. While walking, Bishan notices withered flowers and realizes Susua has died. She tries to communicate with her other regalas, but everyone hides their problems to avoid hurting her. Kazuma worries seeing a tired and weak Bishan sleeping. He becomes serious upon noticing a blight on her neck and summons all regalas to check for corruption. However, no one has any mark on their body. Even Kugaha is spotless. Kugaha suggests Kazuma might be getting overprotective, which seems true to everyone. When Bishan visits, the mark on her neck is gone. Kugaha visits Susua's tree where Yacht is standing. Yacht can smell dogs and is certain he killed Susua. Kugaha attacks Yacht with slashing barriers, assuming he's powerless without his regalia, but Yacht humbles him. Kugaha leaves, hoping Yacht will fade away before their next meeting. Yacht sadly screams that he won't disappear as long as someone remembers him. Nora feeds her murderous dogs, while Kugaha confidently claims Bishan is weak enough that some of her regalias are ready to fall with just a little push. AA approaches Kugaha, wanting her phantom to disappear, so she doesn't harm Bishan, ironically not realizing she's already harming her by being jealous and harassing fellow regalias. Kugaha uses this opportunity to manipulate AA. Hiyori buys cheese buns for Yacht. Her friends become suspicious, thinking she has a boyfriend when she gets free and turns to walk away. Hiyori detects Yacht's presence, who is currently hiding in a trash can and stalking her. She hands him the buns and assures him that she can meet him daily, so he doesn't fear she will forget him. She promises not to forget him even if they don't meet. Yacht becomes shy and hides in the trash can again. Kazuma apologizes to Kugaha for his earlier doubts. Kugaha informs him about losing Susua in the lower realm, which prompts Kazuma to investigate the death. Yacht refuses to let Yuki search for Susua, knowing he is dead and believing the area is no longer safe. Kugaha uses the opportunity to tell Bishan that Susua was friends with Yacht's regalia. Yuki is determined to go to the cherry blossom tree and uses food to distract Yacht from stalking him. He finds Kazuma placing flowers there and wonders if this relates to Yacht's warning about the area's danger. Yacht feels his chest ache, worrying about Yuki. Nora suddenly appears, trying to manipulate Yacht into getting rid of the strings that hurt him. Yuki follows Kazuma to ask about Susua and accidentally touches him. When he goes back, he unexpectedly ends up in Bishan's palace. Yuki's desperation to know about Susua overwhelms him. Kazuma tries to silence him, telling him Susua is dead and attempting to prevent Bishan from finding out. However, Bishan is standing right behind them. She points a gun at Yuki, who begins screaming at her for letting Susua get attacked and die. Yuki blames Bishan for having too many regalias and being unable to protect them. Bishan appears pained, and this confirms the rumor about Kazuma saving Yacht. Kazuma tries to tell Bishan that Yacht is her savior, but Bishan becomes angry and banishes Kazuma. However, her weakness prevents her from completely removing his name. Kazuma ends up at Kuku's residence. Kugaha uses this opportunity to encourage other regalias to move on from Kazuma. Yuki becomes depressed, losing a friend and causing trouble for Kazuma. This also takes a toll on Yacht. When Yacht and Hiyori discuss the situation outside, AA appears and attacks. The excessive phantoms created by Kugaha prevent Yacht from doing anything. Kugaha traps Hiyori's soul as Yacht leaves to catch AA. Kazuma attempts to save Hiyori, but Kugaha seems to have the upper hand and takes her hostage. Yacht assumes all this is Bishan's doing. Hiyori wakes up in a prison cell where Kazuma is looking outside. He tells her he has tried everything to get out, but failed. Kazuma warns her she might die if left too long. Yacht worries about Hiyori while she lies in the hospital. Kazuma wonders why Kugaha is using their names to avoid being affected. Hiyori asks why his name is different from others. Kazuma reveals that all her new regalias are from the Ha clan, but he is the sole survivor of the Ma clan, which was slaughtered by Yacht. Bishan is prepared to kill both Yacht and Kazuma. Yuki feels responsible for what happened to Hiyori, but Yacht simply comes to take him to rescue her from Bishan. Deku tries to stop Yacht, but Yacht doesn't even respond to his voice. Kazuma tells Hiyori how deeply Bishan was affected by the killing of her clan, which fueled her hatred for Yacht and also her kindness in taking in every torn soul as a regalia, even if they turn out to be weak. Kazuma suddenly realizes Kugaha's true motivation and shouts at him as phantoms spread across Kugaha's body. Kugaha finally reveals that Kazuma is now vulnerable and can either listen to him or be finished as a traitor. Kazuma figures out Kugaha's plan to have Bishan killed. Since her name will still be called as a she will be reincarnated, allowing Kugaha to take over as Kazuma and control Bishan from then on. Kugaha kidnaps Hiyori to provoke Yacht, which makes Yacht furious. Yacht and Yuki go to Bishan's palace with Tenen's aid. Yacht directly intrudes into the palace. Bishan is already outside, ready to fight. Yacht and Yuki realize that without Kazuma's guidance, her attacks are more wild and irrational. Yacht still handles the confrontation well, asking about Hiyori, but Bishan is unaware of what he's talking about. Hiyori asks why Yacht killed her clan. Kazuma reveals the painful truth. He was the weakest regalia among others. When Bishan fell sick and became blighted, the regalas started fighting about who the traitor was, transforming into phantoms due to their enmity. This made Bishan even more vulnerable, so Kazuma had no choice but to ask Calamity, Yacht, to kill all the regalas before they consumed Bishan. Yacht had done them a favor by killing the regalas, but Bishan started hating him, unaware of the reality. This is why Kazuma refers to Yacht as both their savior and enemy. Hiyori becomes increasingly worried about the commotion outside. Yacht is finally separated from Yuki, and as Yacht is brutally attacked, Yuki in his sword form comes forth and gets cut in two to save Yacht from a fatal blow. Kazuma and Hiyori try their best to break the door, but Hiyori starts losing connection to her body and falls weak, making Kazuma worry. Yacht begins feeling the pain of Yuki getting hurt, which makes Bishan mock him about the pain of losing a regalia. However, when Yacht doesn't feel his name removed, he calls Yuki again. The energy of his appearance is enough to push back Bishan. Two blades appear in Yacht's hands as Yuki's ultimate sacrifice and loyalty transform him into an ultimate regalia. This time, Yuki can dodge stronger attacks. While Bishan continues fighting, the effects of medicine on AA wear off, and her phantom starts spreading. Bishan screams in pain from brutal corruption, and all the regalas attached to her at the moment become blighted as well. Despite this, Bishan refuses to release them. The regalas worry about who could be corrupted, but Bishan adamantly continues fighting Yacht. Kugaha finally reveals his true intentions to AA, stating that he doesn't want to live among the weak regalas that Bishan keeps hoarding. Bishan remains strong with her hatred, while Yuki's transformation provides excellent defense for Yacht. All the regalas enter the palace to protect themselves. Karira encounters AA, and Bishan appears increasingly blinded by her hatred, refusing to acknowledge her regalas' pain and continuing to use them as weapons. Inside the palace, Kugaha's phantom begins devouring weak, defenseless regalas, making Bishan believe Yacht is behind the deaths. Karira attempts to help Kazuma escape, with Hiyori insisting on coming along to stop Yacht from killing Bishan. On their way back, Karira apologizes for not noticing Kugaha concealing Bishan's blights. Hiyori feels sympathy for the regalas, who have been faking smiles to protect Bishan. She appreciates how Yacht and Yuki quickly resolve their conflicts. Bishan continues wildly blaming and attacking Yacht. As Yacht finds her refusal to release her regalas disturbing and considers killing her, Hiyori appears. Kazuma explains the entire situation, but Bishan remains mindless and attacks everyone around her. Yacht feels killing her is the only way to stop her. Kazuma pushes him away, receiving Bishan's blow. He hugs her, absorbing her blights while explaining the past and taking blame instead of Yacht. Her hatred for Yacht had made her strong again, which is why Kazuma never told her the truth. Bishan breaks down crying like a child, hugging Kazuma. Yacht tells her to release her regalas, which she does, weeping about losing many of them once again. Yuki wonders who is killing them if not Yacht, though the true culprit seems obvious. Kugaha finally reveals himself, shocking those unaware of his involvement. He still claims loyalty while insulting Bishan, criticizing her for becoming war who collects weak regalas instead of maintaining only strong ones. Kugaha continues insulting Bishan, calling her incompetent and insinuating she should kill herself to be reincarnated with him as her new guiding voice. Just as he is about to touch her face, his hand gets cut off. Yacht stops him and mocks Kugaha for acting like a whiny kid, causing so much trouble just to get Bishan's attention. Yacht tells Kugaha that a can never be wrong. Offended, Kugaha refuses to accept any wrongdoing. He brings out a mask that creates a phantom to attack Yacht. The phantom begins attacking people inside the palace, forcing two girls to run towards Bishan's spiritual pond for safety. Yacht faces the phantom, while Kugaha continues making snarky remarks about Yacht being weak and worthless. Kugaha doesn't stop until Yacht easily defeats the phantom. Before Yacht can reach Kugaha, Bishan intervenes, still considering him dear due to their shared memories. Kugaha insists he never betrayed Bishan, which appears true as she doesn't get stung when he says so. However, when she learns he released the phantom to devour other regalas, she takes away his name and banishes him from her palace. Bishan leaves to save her remaining subordinates. Yacht tries to follow and help, but Hiyori tells him to let her handle it. Yacht makes sure to tell her he thinks she is never wrong. Bishan appears and saves her remaining regalas, mercifully putting the affected ones down to remove their pain. Kazuma dreams about the past during this time. When he wakes up, Bishan tells him about the recovering regalas, and AA patiently undergoing her ablution. She emphasizes that she still needs him as her guiding voice, regardless of his own doubts about deserving this role. Bishan believes Kazuma is allowed to make human mistakes, and no matter how much he messes up, she will still cherish him. Everyone gathers in the room upon seeing him awake, and they engage in a cute, honest exchange about an exchange diary Bishan introduced to get to know each other better. Kazuma becomes emotional, feeling accepted back into the family. Everyone feels excited and relieved seeing the three return safely. Yacht brags about Yuki becoming his imperial regalia, creating mixed emotions among the group. Hiyori is happy about everything but suddenly remembers her entrance exam and starts to leave. Tenjin stops her, reminding Yacht of his promise to sever ties with Hiyori to keep her from harm. Hiyori refuses, declaring she doesn't want to forget about him, which shocks Yacht and everyone else. Hiyori manages to pass her exam exam at the last minute and prevents Yacht from breaking ties with her. Yacht is currently pestering her about joining some club, making her chase him around. Demon is called to account for her rash behavior and personal gains. She is also questioned for letting Kugaha go, who brought a final phantom to her shrine. Bishan mentions that Kugaha, being someone else's Nora, prevented her name from binding him. This reveals to everyone that a corrupted exists among the named. Okashi and the other 6 gods of fortune invite Bishan to a party, but she is surprised to see Aisu missing. An intriguing note to end on. Aisu is currently in front of Yacht, paying him and Yuki a large sum of money to buy Yuki as an imperial regalia. Yuki is just learning that he is also Yacht's guiding voice, while Yacht is being tempted by Aisu to buy a shrine with the money. Yacht calls Hiyori about Yuki's conflicted situation, though Yacht is certain he doesn't want to lose Yuki. While studying with Hiyori, Yuki mentions the situation. Deku intervenes, explaining that he is also Kuku's guiding voice since she owns only him as a regalia. He advises Yuki on how to protect Yacht. Yuki doesn't want to leave Yacht, but still insults him for not being rich. Yacht gets a client about catching a bank transfer scam. Yuki thinks he should raise his fee from 5 yen, but Yacht wants to create a name first rather than focus on money. He understands that humans prefer money over everything, which is why all his previous regalias left him, and this one might do the same. Yuki realizes this is why he has to rely on Nora for support. The scammer turns out to have a greedy phantom the size of a flea. It's so small that Yuki cannot attack it with a blade, and Yacht misses it before he can use his hands properly. Yacht follows the scammer, while Yuki rushes to get the money Aisu left for Yacht to build a shrine. Yuki uses that money to feed the phantom and help it grow, realizing he shouldn't let greed affect him as a guiding voice of a Yacht and Yuki are proud of this decision, though Yacht is desperate to have the money for his shrine. Yuki has to use his power as a guiding voice to help Yacht focus on killing the phantom. The next day, Yacht is hiding in his bed, depressed about losing the money for his shrine. Building a shrine has always been his unfulfilled dream, but things are different now that he has a sweet human attached to him. Hiyori makes a mini shrine and gifts it to him, understanding that shrines mean a lot to Yacht tears up badly, finally receiving this honor. Aisu smirks about Yacht not giving up on Yuki, with his office filled with masks of phantoms. It turns out Aisu is the corrupted god who has been capturing phantoms and transforming them into hex phantoms that serve him. Yacht keeps wandering around Hiyori ever since she got him a shrine, as he officially got his residence registered by continuously pestering the office. Yacht is overjoyed, ranting about how Hiyori's shrine got him land in Takamagahara. He can now officially handle merchandise, has a holy book and song dedicated to him. So innocent and pure is Yacht's happiness that he overlooks the fact that he only got a tiny piece of land and wrote his own song and book. While Yacht is busy communicating with other in Takamagahara, Hiyori becomes worried when she realizes Manabu has completely forgotten about Yacht. Yuki visits Bishan, more precisely Kazuma, because he wants Kazuma to teach him vocations so he can become stronger for Yacht. Hiyori is troubled by why Yacht keeps texting her without meeting her every moment. Kauku explains that Yacht has been surviving on people's scattered memories for years, but now with her, he can live without worrying about being forgotten. Like Yacht disappear from existence once their purpose is fulfilled if everyone forgets them. Hiyori worries about forgetting Yacht, but Deku reassures her. He believes Yacht might have some believers somewhere in the world that have helped him survive this long. Yuki gets injured while training with Kazuma. The ink faces create a happy, fun atmosphere around Kuku's place in the evening. Yacht, heavily drunk, talks about how his childhood self would be proud that he finally got a shrine. Everyone wonders about Yacht's past. Late at night, Hiro calls out Yacht. She tells him that he doesn't want to throw away his happiness and friends, so he wants to break any associations with her. However, she gives him a reality check that he is the reason she became a Nora. She then has him attacked by her Hex Phantom and takes him away. Hiyori worries about Yacht's disappearance for weeks, fearing she might forget him. Everyone else simply assumes he disappeared for some reason. Meanwhile, Yacht is being used by Hiro and her father to murder for revenge, not being allowed to leave their place. Bishan and Okunashi visit Aisu due to his affected health, unaware that the real reason is his creation of Hex Phantoms. The two worry about him having an unreliable regalia, not knowing that he is the corruption itself. Yacht continues to act like a puppet, murdering people until he realizes the possibility of Hiyori forgetting him, as a month has already passed since his disappearance. He creates a commotion, expressing his desire to leave, something he has never done before. Hiro tells Yacht's father about his unusual behavior. The father assigns Yacht one last job in the underworld before he can leave. As Hiro and Yacht enter the underworld, she warns him to avoid encountering Anami. The deathless dwells there and doesn't let anyone leave if encountered. Hiyori's friend gets a ticket for Capland and is about to say she wants to go with someone. She takes an unusual pause before coming up with a name, creating a slightly awkward moment. A meeting of called in colloquy, which Kaku strangely attends. She had hoped to see Yacht, but didn't find him there. Yacht travels around the underworld, worried about getting back to his family of 2, while Hiro continually tries to manipulate him about their supposed perfect duo. They suddenly encounter Aisu at the meeting. It is revealed that Aisu, who was absent from the meeting, has been conjuring phantoms and is therefore ready to be arrested. The other 6 gods appear to be in shock about this statement. Yacht confronts Aisu, with Hiro revealing they are there to save Aisu due to his health. Yacht realizes Aisu has been conjuring phantoms, but Aisu simply wants more strength. finding it alluring. Isu tells Yacht he needs to see Anami to get a location brush, while Yacht just wants to take him and leave. Suddenly, they are trapped and brought before Anami, who ironically appears different to each of them. Yacht sees Hiyori, while Isu sees an older woman. Anami tries to seduce Yacht into staying, but Hiro brings him back to reality. Isu tells Yacht he doesn't plan on negotiating much with Anami. Isu requests Anami for the location brush, which she agrees to give if one of them stays back with her. Meanwhile, Hiyori enjoys Kapal Land but keeps mentioning Yacht and Yuki, stopping at their names, highlighting that she has started to forget about them. Isu starts a fight with Yacht about leaving him behind, questioning why Yacht likes living when he doesn't have anyone. Yacht explains he likes to live because he was born from people's wishes, just like any other god. Yacht is eventually defeated by Asu, who points a gun at his head, but this is only a distraction for Anami so his phantom can steal the location brush. It turns out Hiro was also named by Isu once, and this was all a plan to get the brush. They rush to leave afterward. Hiyori is enjoying her day but keeps missing something very close to her. By the end of the day, she feels troubled by not being able to recall who she is trying to remember, worrying about the heavy feeling. Hiyori's heavy feeling suddenly resolves when she hears Yuki's voice. It takes her a while to see him, but the moment she reads his name, she breaks down, finally remembering everything. Yuki appears angry at Yacht for not revealing his whereabouts. Hiyori leaves her body to desperately search for Yacht, realizing she will forget him if she doesn't see him constantly. Yacht and Isu struggle to escape, with Hiro making one of Isu's regalas sacrifice his life to save them. Yacht questions Isu's desperation for the location brush, prompting Isu to reveal the truth. Isu wants to make the world a better place and is willing to go to any lengths to acquire the brush that can control phantoms. Yacht is genuinely surprised and impressed that Isu has no selfish motives but is acting for humanity. This impresses Yacht so much that he begins fighting Anami's subordinates with all his might to save Isu, not because of his father and Hiro's commands, but because he wants to. He also feels determined to return to Hiyori and make her happy in every way. Hiyori starts studying different gods in books and online to learn more about Yacht, now that she has realized how little she knows about him. Kazuma visits Tenen's shrine seeking help to find Isu's whereabouts. Isu, originally the spirit of a plum tree, talks to other trees and learns that Isu was seen at the entrance of the underworld. Two other people resembling Yacht and Hiro were also spotted. The other six are held captive by the Heaven's Guards as they seek to find and execute Isu. Okinnashi resists, wanting to hunt down Isu himself if he has been corrupted. Kazuma rescues Bishan and takes her away while the other handle the situation. Hiyori convinces Yuki to accompany her to the entrance, though Yuki remains upset with Yacht for being with Hiro. Isu knows he is headed toward Yacht, who made him flee while standing back. However, to his misfortune, the cave openings have been sealed by Anami. Isu feels like things are ending for him, and decides to tell Anami he will stay instead of Yacht. He knows he'll be reborn after death, but Yacht is unwilling to let this happen, believing Isu's efforts will be lost if his personality goes through succession. Yacht makes Isu mention a wish, and decides to grant it as part of his 5-yen job. Isu questions how they'll leave with the sealed exits, making Yacht scream at him to drill a hole or find a way if he wants to master controlling phantoms. Isu gets the idea and smirks, ordering his phantoms to create a vent for their escape. Yacht is impressed that Isu managed this, but as he creates protection for Isu, he gets caught and pulled down by Anami. Bishan searches near the underworld and sees the huge light of the vent. Yuki and Hiyori follow the opening, but Hiyori disappears midway, restrained by Kugaha. Yuki returns but cannot restrain Kugaha since he is a Nora. Kugaha attempts to undermine Yuki, suggesting he is weak and his status doesn't justify supporting Yacht. Thankfully, Hiyori is there for Yuki. She uses gaps between dodging Kugaha's attacks to tell Yuki not to take those words to heart, emphasizing that Yacht considers Yuki his pride and joy. Her words work, and Yuki fights back, clearly showing who is stronger in their dynamic. Yacht is brutally injured but relieved he managed to save Isu, doing so not because his father asked him to, but because he genuinely wanted to. Bishan and Kazuma find Isu, and Yuki and Hiyori catch up. Isu tells them they need to get Yacht out before the vent closes. Inside the vent, Yacht barely dodges Anami and rests with Hiro. He briefly considers staying with her, who has been with him since childhood. However, a thought of Hiyori and Yuki immediately makes him realize what he truly wants. He starts limping to find an exit, but gets caught by Anami. Hiyori and Yuki wonder how to go inside when Kaku and Deku also appear. Kaku mentions how dangerous it is for Hiyori, while Yuki requests Bishan to take him inside, willing to do anything to protect Yacht. When Kaku mentions that Yuki would need to become a Nora to sneak into the underworld, he hesitates. Bishan decides to go alone and bring Yacht back, telling her regalas to only support escape and not try to defeat Anami. Even while defending themselves, it's difficult to phase Anami with their attacks. Yacht finds it ridiculous that Bishan came just because she feels indebted to him. However, when Bishan mentions Hiyori and Yuki waiting for him, he stops his defeated act and resists his current ties. Outside, everyone worries. When Isu awakens, he sees that Yacht also has people concerned for him. He tells everyone Yacht can be saved in one way, which requires the only human present. The Hees decide that regardless of who conjured phantoms or Nora, the punishment is execution. Bishan fights inside with all her might, but as everyone says, Anami is not easily defeatable. Bishan gets cornered, and Anami takes Kazuma away while ordering her subordinates to feast upon Bishan. Meanwhile, Yat tries his best to break free. Aisu believes even Bishan would struggle against Anami. He tells Hiyori to use the soul call method, calling the name to bind them to the near shore and summon them outside. Hiyori rushes to do this for Yat, while Anami tries to force-feed Yat food to bind him inside. One of Bishan's regulars helps her break free. Bishan then pushes Anami away from Yat and challenges her to return him when her name is suddenly called, causing her to disappear. Yat realizes he has just witnessed a soul call, which means he can also leave if his name is called. Bishan is shocked by what just happened. Everyone remains worried about why the soul call won't work on Yat. The only possible explanation is that Yat is not his real name, and sadly, he has never shared anything about his past with anyone. Their concerns intensify when the Heaven's Punishers arrive. Yat feels hopeful that he can return soon, but Hiro reminds him of the bitter reality that he never told anyone his real name. He falls back in defeat, aware that he didn't share his name because he didn't want anyone to hate him for his past self. The Heaven's Punishers ignore Bishan's plea to give Aisu a chance to explain himself. They even plan to hold Bishan accountable if she continues to interfere. Aisu, who was previously unbothered by death, now has a will to live after meeting Yat. He uses his phantoms to defend against the rain of arrows showered at him. Hiyori continues trying to get her voice to reach a pained and lost Yat. She is confident that Yat is somewhere under his real name, especially after seeing how emotional he gets about his shrine. Suddenly, the last syllable of his name strikes her mind, and she screams Yaboku instead of Yat. The next moment, everyone is shocked to see Yat out and lying next to Hiyori. The three finally sigh in relief of being back together. Hisu worries upon seeing Mouch's Regalia K summoned in its Thunder Dragon form, realizing his phantoms don't stand a chance against it. Bishan protects Aisu and asks everyone to run while she deals with Ken. Even the Heaven's Punishers mock Bishan for asking Kazuma to lend support against Ken, but the few moments of Ken being defeated demonstrate how powerful Bishan and Kazuma are together. Yuki can no longer contain his frustration and starts complaining about Yat hiding things from him and not trusting him, despite being ready to give everything to Yat. Yat tries to speak but gets cut off by Yuki's angry rant. The Heaven's Punishers create a pacification ring to publicly execute Aisu. Aisu can do little about this lunacy, but Yat wants to fulfill his promise of getting Aisu lunch at Olive Tavern. He explicitly asks Yuki to rely on him to deal with this situation. They cut the ring in half together, though it quickly reappears beneath Aisu instead of above him. Yat walks around town with a location on paper, accompanied by a serious-looking clumsy kid who can't even tie his shoelaces. They sit at Olive Tavern, and the kid turns out to be Aisu's successor. Yuki and Hiyori sit in Takamagahara, discussing how kind Bishan was to let Yat stay in a recovery room at her place. Bishan and Kazuma rush to them, mentioning that Yat has vanished with Aisu and Kazuma's wallet. Aisu orders his regular meal as if he knows what he likes, despite having no memory of his past life. Yat tells Aisu that it was a promise to Aisu's previous self, which makes Yat emotional as he doesn't want Aisu to have a succession. Hiyori and Yuki peek inside the restaurant while Yat talks to Aisu about knowing only his past self. Aisu enjoys the food he has once again discovered to love. He keeps talking to Yat about not remembering anything from his past. However, it's evident that it's in Aisu's nature to love people and wish for their happiness. This little Aisu keeps mentioning wanting to be a good god and hoping he was nice in his past life. Seeing Yat quiet, Aisu starts getting sad, having heard he was executed by the heavens and must have done something bad. This makes Yat open up, praising Aisu for sacrificing his life for humanity. Yat recalls the traumatic moment of Aisu dying in his arms, with Aisu's last words expressing his reluctance to die. This young Aisu doesn't blame Yat, but Yat desperately asks for forgiveness, hoping it will bring him some closure. Young Aisu reports to Bishan and other that Kunami has been chosen as his new guiding voice, with the former guide Iwami to be expelled. Since Iwami knows about his past, he hopes Bishan can help hide him from the heavens. Hami later briefs everyone about why Aisu was doing everything, and about the location brush disappearing. Aisu still communicates fondly with everyone, his persona of wanting others' happiness unchanged even after succession. At night, Yat takes Yuki outside to meet a place. The nearby location makes Hiyori smell their scent and follow it. Hiyori witnesses Yat confessing to Yuki about being a murderer, not just in the distant past, but recently as well. Hiro appears, and Yat confronts her about the Aisu situation. He had already suspected, but Hiro confirms that the true evil conjurer was his father. Aisu was coincidentally conjuring phantoms at the same time, and was used as bait to cover up for Yat's father's actions. As Hiro continues to criticize Yuki, Yat finally reaches his limit. He calls her name and releases her from his association. Yat then turns to Yuki, expressing his desire to be guided to make people happy and become a god of fortune, acknowledging that all he knows is fighting and killing. Yuki responds by telling him to kill evil before it can harm people. Yuki also makes it his aim to prevent Yat from murdering people and to help him kill phantoms to serve people. Hiyori prays from behind, hoping for their success in their new ambitions. The three of them share a happy moment. Fujisaki, who is at Kapal Land with Hiyori, plays with the location brush while discussing with Hiro how Yat has finally entered his rebellious phase and defied his father. This concludes the recap of Noragami, with a hopeful but realistic note about the possibility of a third season.